Young Turks member, Ben Peck, and he's going to ask me a question. Ben, what do you got for us?
Hey, Jank, I just want to ask you, I changed my mind a little bit later on, apologies for that. But so for the Democratic primaries coming up, one thing I noticed during this past cycle, it kind of seemed like we had Bernie Sanders and we had the establishment crew. And, not that anyone was dissuading any other progressives but Bernie running. But my concern maybe for the future is that I know a lot of talk will circulate about, if we have 2 or 3 or 4 progressive candidates that kind of split that vote, and then that can allow the establishment to win. But I'm worried that possibly down the road we do that enough. I just don't want to get into the same thing the establishment has been doing, where we kind of coordinate, this is our progressive candidate this cycle, and we're just going with them. Do you see that as a concern or no? Or I guess, how do you think we address that?
So, Ben, that's such a great question. So I'm not at all worried about that, and I'll tell you why. So you're right that logically, if you have, for example, 1 establishment candidate and 4 progressives, let's make up names. Tim Kaine runs, and then you've got Elizabeth Warren, Sherrod Brown, Nina Turner, Tulsi Gabbard, okay? And those guys are going to split the vote. Wouldn't that be great, by the way? Wouldn't it be amazing if those were your 5 choices? So they're going to split the progressive vote, and then Tim Kaine's going to get the establishment vote, and maybe he walks out a winner. It actually does happen sometimes on the Republican side. That's kind of what happened with John McCain and Mitt Romney. It did not happen this time around. Okay, the establishment split their votes in the Republican primary, and the outsider won. But the reason I say I'm not worried about it, Ben, because I don't believe the talking point that the Democratic Party has been shoving down our throats for all these years, that primaries hurt. I think they help the party. I'm positive they help the party, because it's a necessary conversation to not only get to where you need to be, not only to present your voters with real choices, but to actually make the winning candidate stronger, not weaker. Because if you can survive that and you can get the jousting back and forth, and then you might be ready for a guy like Donald Trump in the general elections. Yeah. And you'll have sussed out your positions, hopefully your positions, if anything, gets solidified. So I want as many candidates as possible. And I want them to get in the ring. I want them to have as many debates as possible and let the best person win. And I think Hillary Clinton hung on because she had such enormous brand name recognition. And as you can tell from Donald Trump, who also had giant brand name recognition, from George Bush, brand name means a lot in politics, unfortunately. Next time around, there's not a lot of brand names out there on the Democratic side. So we might actually have a fair contest.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I think the more, like you said, I want a ton of progressive voices in that primary. I just don't want people to get scared and say, well, Elizabeth Warren, let's say, jumped into the ring. So I don't really have that much differences with her. So we'll just make her our only option. Not that I don't have any beef with Elizabeth Warren, but like you said, I like all those voices, and I don't want anyone to be discouraged because they say, well, we already have a progressive. So I think more and more progressive voices is a good thing. And I think I largely agree with what you're saying.
Yeah, Ben, I'm totally anti-coronation. 1,000%
That's exactly. That's the only thing I don't want to have happen.
That's exactly right. Yeah. So, and I really like Elizabeth Warren, but if people said no, you should clear the path for her, I would say hell no.
That's what I don't want to have happen. I don't think it will, but that's my only. I want to run, like you said, as many voices as possible, and let's dish it out. Let's have a debate whether we should do 1.6 trillion or 1.4 trillion infrastructure spending.
There you go. That's right.
I don't care how small the differences are. Let's do that.
And one last thing about that. If you like the other thing the Democratic Party establishment hates is primaries on the Democratic side push the party to the left. And they claim that that's hurtful in the general election because the country is center right. But we know, not based on our gut, but based on polling, that the country is actually center left. And so that actually does not hurt the Democratic candidate. What it does is it hurts the donors because they're center right. And they don't want the Democratic candidate to be center-left. They want the Democratic candidate to also be center-right. So it's a trick. So don't fall into that trick. None of these candidates are so far left that they would fall outside the mainstream. So the further left they go at this point in the Democratic Party, it could get to a point where this is not true, but at this point in history, the further left they go in the Democratic Party, the closer they get to the center of American opinion based on the polling, where you've got 86% who want to protect Social Security, 84% want to protect Medicare, 78% who want to protect Medicaid, in the 70s on people who want to raise taxes on the rich, in the 60s on people who want to lower the defense budget, have a pathway to citizenship and immigration reform, 92% on sensible gun regulation. You go down that list, money out of politics, over 90%. So going left doesn't hurt you, it helps you. Don't listen to the Democratic Party. And even if you have a candidate that's terrific on the left, still no clearing of the path. No, we have real contests and a real debate about who's going to be better and who's got the better ideas.
Preach. Yeah, no, I'm totally for that, man.
Okay, fantastic. And Ben, I know you asked a question before. I'll just quickly answer that. And you don't have to apologize for changing your question. Yeah. These aren't rigged. You could ask any question you like. But you were also wondering about whether we would keep the fundraiser going after reaching the $2 million goal.
Yeah, if I could just give a little more context.
Yes.
So kind of like keep almost like I know if you set a date for a fundraiser, it creates the urgency to get there quicker. But just kind of like an ongoing fund, like, hey, we're going to leave it up, and once we hit this number, then we get the other reporter. We have this, stash. We release the heathens once we get the funds.
Well, I hear you, brother. But there's a couple reasons why I'm concerned about that. One is I don't want to, I feel bad saying this, especially given the context of where we are today. But the NPRs and PBSs, I feel like they do too many nonstop telethons. The last time we did a fundraiser was 3 years ago, right?
Yeah.
And so I don't want to wear out your guys' patience. I want to do this, hire some folks, have them do some great work, have you guys be proud of the people that you hired, and I don't want to keep on asking, right? So that's why I want to put a limit on it. The limit is inauguration, and so we're trying to get to 2 million by then. But for God's sake, let's get to 500 first, so we can at least get that first team that I think you guys are going to love. I appreciate your idea on that, and of course we'll consider it. But in my ideal world, it'd be great to finish this by inauguration.
And to be fair, that's not even. That was just something I thought I had. I was kind of leaning in your direction as well, but just something I thought that'd be interesting. But yeah, absolutely.
All right. Thank you, Ben. Really appreciate it. And thanks for being a member too.
Thank you.